Hey, what is going on? I hope you guys are doing great. I keep getting a lot of questions about my creative process, how I make these sewing patterns, what software I use, all that stuff. So in this video, I'm going to give you a little bit of the behind the scenes look of how we managed to do that. So if you're not subscribed already, please consider subscribing to my tiny little channel. Hit the like button, leave me a comment. Every little thing you do helps me out, helps the channel grow, and helps more people see this type of content that might enjoy making bags and stuff. So let's head over to the computer and I'll show you pretty much how we start a project. Okay, so I'm in my editing software. The software I use is Adobe Illustrator. I find that this seems to be the best one for doing this. So currently working on my 14-liter tactical backpack. And the way I start making these sewing patterns is I start with a shape. So in this case, I have this shape, which it didn't start out like that. So I'll draw a shape, and then I'll take it to paper and cut it out onto paper or print it. And then I'll make modifications from there and then put it back into my software with the updated measurements. And then I just start tacking away at things like pocket sizes and like how big the piece of Velcro is going to be. Like in this case, it's going to be 2 by 6 inches. And yeah, I try and keep everything really simple. So I get the arrows. And yeah, my patterns are really simple. They're not too difficult to understand. So on these really big projects, I start out by drawing everything on a A0 size paper. And then I export it as A0. So like if you buy a big pattern, it's always has the A0 size where you can just print it, but not a lot of people have access to an A0 size printer. So what I do is I cut the pages up into A4 size. You can see the page divider lines here. And when I'm drawing the blueprint on drawing the pattern on the software, I try and make sure that everything stay in a way where not a lot of things get cut off. Like if you notice the titles here, like the main body shape for the back piece, I don't want that title in between a page divider. So that kind of helps having that as a template while I do it. So yeah, so after I cut out the shapes into paper and I refeed it back in, and then I kind of come up with the shape I want, and then I start doing other things. Like in this case, this tactical backpack is going to have 2 pockets on the front of it, and I have to adjust the pocket shape, and it's pretty cool because I can like take the shape and then I can actually just like overlap things. So right now you see this is without the seam allowance. So this piece here would have the extra 1/2 inch all the way around, and then the piece that you can actually see as a reference on the bag doesn't have that because it doesn't need it. So because by the time you put the pockets on the bag, all this is going to be folded in anyway, which you'll see on the video. I try and make a video instead of actual step-by-step instructions because I think it's a lot easier to follow along if you can actually see someone doing what you're going to be doing. And that's kind of hard to convey when using only illustrations. So to be honest, this pattern's almost finished. There's just a couple of things I gotta test out, and that's why you see the highlighted red areas. It means I have to cut these out of paper, fold it, and test it out. Like this is going to be the part where your strap for your backpack connects. So this is kind of not finalized yet, if you want to say that. So we're going to test that out. We're going to test all the strap lengths out. But all this stuff here, like the carry handle strap and the gussets, like this is going to be the main gusset that goes all the way around the bag. And what I do, yeah, I use paper. I just cut the shapes out of paper and fold it, glue it, and just make sure everything matches up the way I want. And that's really important too when doing these little relief cuts, because I said this is the gusset, so this is going to go all the way around the perimeter of the bag. But when you're trying to bend the fabric like this, you're going to have cuts in it because the fabric's not going to stretch. So the little relief cuts have to be like in the perfect spot, and that will make the pattern easier to sew. But all this has to be cut out of paper and tested, and then once the pattern's finished and I build it for the first time, it if there's any adjustments, I'll go back into the project here and make those little adjustments so that the people that download this pattern and sew it don't have any issues. So that is that. One of the issues I usually have is trying to fit all the pattern pieces onto one page. Like, this is my first sewing pattern where I actually have to use two A0 size pieces of paper. Usually I can fit them all onto one page, but because this pattern's so big and has a lot of parts, that trying to fit it all onto one page is not going to happen. A lot of the time I try and make a shape and then say, okay, cut 2 of this shape, cut 6 of this shape, just to save room on the paper. But in this case, every shape needs kind of like references on it. So on the very back of the bag, it's going to have references like the design to stitch into it, and like where to mount the shoulder straps and where to mount the top weapon handle strap. And then on the inside of the bag, the inside liner, it's going to have the position of where you're going to put the pocket. But I think it'll look too crowded if I like tried to put everything on one shape. So for this one, I had to say, okay, each layer of the bag is going to have its own shape with its own references. Because imagine all 3 of these shapes just in one, with like pockets on it and like the main pocket and the straps, and it just wouldn't look good. So I had to separate everything, and unfortunately that means that I have to have it over 2 big A0 size pieces of paper. But it's all good. So when I'm trying to like put all the patterns together, I have to make sure that they don't kind of overlap between the page divider marks. For example, here you can see how close I'm cutting it with the pocket, gusset, and zipper. The page divider goes right through the middle. So, but I know it doesn't look like much, but up to now, this pattern has probably took me about 2 weeks of working every single day, about 2 weeks of organizing things and testing shape sizes and just kind of grouping things together that are kind of like relevant to each other. Like, everything over here would be for the straps. Everything like here would be for the pockets. Yeah. Like everything like here, these are grouped together kind of for the inside layer, and then the gusset, and it's very difficult to put everything together. But for the most part, you're gonna cut out all these shapes, and it's not really gonna matter too much. So once I've kind of got it to a point where I think everything's good, all the shapes are the right size, I have to start rendering the file. So what I'll do is I'll usually render this into like a WebP format, and then take it over to another Adobe Illustrator project where I can have each individual A4 page. And then what I'll do is I'll save those projects as a PDF, and that's usually what I'll upload to Etsy.